Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got one game for our player props video up here tonight. It is the Celtics in Atlanta taking on the Hawks for Game 6, which I don't think all of us expected to be witness to tonight, but here we are. So we will move into some of these player props. We've also got best bets from that game as well in a separate video. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. We can also head to thelines.com. That's where we have all the great written content about the NBA and more right now up on the site. And we have that odds finder tool for you. You can use that to make sure that you're getting the best odds available to you from all these bets you want to make in the NBA this season. All these books giving us different odds as we see here. We're going to jump into our player props here for Thursday night. Nate did want to mention that we had a pretty good night last night. Yanni Boo-Boo, Giannis could not pull out the W for you to hit that nice bet for him. So lost that one, but Austin Reeves managed to get 15.5 points over that because he scored so many in the second half, which was what that bet was predicated on. Did not get the 20 that we put a quarter unit on, but only a little bit lost there as we made up for it with his total points. Jared Allen, probably not the best bet in hindsight. Thought he might come with it a little bit more in a game that the Cavs looked like they did not want to play. Hard to predict that they didn't want to even show up. I thought it would have been a little bit better of a matchup, but they did not show up at all. So my Knickerbockers are moving on to take on the Heat. And the fourth one that we got right for a bunch of units there, as I talked about, Malik Monk getting 20 plus for half a unit. That was plus 210. Malik Monk getting 17 points. Even money, 1.5 units on that. Loved all those bets because of the same reason I loved Austin Reeves, which is those guys are going to be playing in the fourth. And also Malik Monk was coming into a game where they were going to need his offense when De'Aaron Fox has a broken finger. And I loved watching De'Aaron Fox walk the ball over to Malik Monk in the fourth quarter and hand it off to him going, I'm sorry, man, I just can't do this. My finger is broken and the Toradol is wearing off. Can you play offense for me like I suggested he might be doing? So that worked out pretty well. Enough gloating about Malik Monk, who's been hitting for us lately. Let's move on to our first NBA play a prop for Thursday night's game between the Hawks and Seas, Nate.
Yeah, like you said, the Hawks did not even expect to be playing this game because they have to bump a Janet Jackson concert that's supposed to be at State Farm tonight to Friday. So a lot of angry concert fans, I think, about that. Going to get some hate mail. But
Janet.
I'm feeling pretty good here about Malcolm Brogdon over 13.5 points. I think you can go up one more and get it at plus 115 at FanDuel for him to score 15. And put 1.5 units on it. I mean, he's averaging 14.5 and 5 assists in his last 4 in the series, despite playing just 26 minutes per game. He's a plus 26 in those minutes. Look, Joe Mazzulla has heard the criticism before, right? Where he's like, you're not playing Derek White enough. You're not playing. And sure enough, Derek White's in the starting lineup, playing 37 minutes per game. People are saying now, you're not playing Malcolm Brogdon down the stretch. Like, why not? He's a much better free throw shooter. He's a much better playmaker than Marcus Smart off the dribble. Marcus Smart, by the way, is a minus 11 in his last 4 in this series, 30 minutes per game. And he has a good individual offensive rating, but, I mean, 119 defensive rating, and just kind of, changes your spacing and the dynamic of the offense. Is just a little harder, I think, to play off him than it is Brogdon, who can carry that second unit, or he can play with the starters. Like, he's very adaptable. He's very hard to stop going to the basket. Atlanta gave up the second most paint points all year. And especially with that second unit, they're going to be much more susceptible. Brogdon scored more on the road, 15.5 points per game this season, shooting 47% from 3 on the road and 91% at the line. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'll use Josh's term, adult in the room, the stabilizing force, probably the guard with, aside from Smart, who just feels himself all the time. Brogdon is a very stabilizing veteran presence that they're going to need down the stretch in Game 6 if they're going to close this out on the road. I would expect them to play more and to score more.
I thought about it. I thought about taking Brogdon heavily for sure. And as I was reading his props, I was like, the adult in the room. But at the same time, I just didn't know if that was going to change in this game because Marcus Smart has been getting 5 more minutes per game than him, and he's been playing the fourth quarter more as well, like you said. And I also don't understand why. I hope the Mazzulla love is still around in Boston right now, because it does seem like at times they've turned on him a little bit and blamed him for things that are going wrong. And I would say what could go wrong is not playing the best option at point guard. I mean, he's been the answer to this team needs a point guard. I mean, Marcus Smart played really, really, really well last year, winning Defensive Player of the Year, all that stuff. But even on offense, he was very, very good for them down the stretch, like above average for himself in terms of the decision making, the shots that he was taking, the realizations that like it's not up to you to score for us in the last few minutes of a game, so don't worry about doing that, please. And I've seen a little bit less, some reverting to his old ways this season in a way that makes you go, well, then why did you sign Malcolm Brogdon if not for this exact reason? So I hope you're right that they play him tonight, because that was the only thing that stopped me from taking him. Was, is Missoula going to play him in the minutes that they need most? So I hope so, but. I'm going to move on to talking about DeJounte Murray, because we've been dancing around him, at least in the best bets video. We talked about him a lot. I just think 21.5 points is a steal right now. I'm not sure why he's predicted to get 22 points, but he's gotten over that. I guess it's because he missed a game, and that's going to change everything somehow, which doesn't make any sense. As soon as he gets back into the lineup, he's probably going to get back to taking the amount of threes that he's been taking, which is the most absurd stat to start with for his points. But it makes total sense. He's taking, how many threes is he taking here? 6.5 threes a game at this point. He's taken 13 in one game where he actually hit 7 of them. And he's been making threes at a pretty solid rate in this postseason. Missed all of them in the first one, and since then he's hit 13 threes in the 3 games that he played before his suspension. So that all adds up when you look at how Boston is playing Trae Young at the top of the key, crowd the crap out of him with another guard, not with your center who's guarding Capella, right? So when Capella comes up to screen, Al Horford's not chasing him. He's standing on the foul line, waiting for Capella to come back to him. It's up to the guy guarding Trae to either get around the screen as best as possible, or for the wing who's guarding DeJounte to come over and help on that double, right? It's not up to the big man on the Celtics. So DeJounte's guy is sagging off a ton. He's shooting the ball a ton as a result. If you look at all the stuff that he's leading them in this series, all the minutes, he's second in points. He's got the most field goal attempts, the most made threes, the most steals, second in scoring and rebounding and assists. Like, he's just doing it all in the 38.5 minutes that he's playing. And he's going to play as many minutes as it takes tonight. He's on fresher legs than anybody. So you could be looking at 44 minutes in this one. I don't know why you would need to sit him at this point, unless, you decide that you'd like to give him a breather for a better shooter like Bogey at times. But Murray's hitting 3.3 threes a game in this series at a super nice clip. So I don't know why you wouldn't bank on that. And he's been the beneficiary of the way the Celtics have guarded Trae Young since he got to Boston, and he honestly enjoyed playing against this Boston, since he got to Atlanta, and he's enjoyed playing against Boston team since he's been in San Antonio. He's hit 22 points in 8 of the last 10 games that he's played against Boston, only failing to do so on the Hawks in his first game with them when he was still getting accustomed to how to play alongside Trae, and that offense was sputtering for a bit at the beginning of this season. So if the books want to give us that at 21.5 points and we get to go over that, I'll take that at minus 111 on Caesars with I think I'm throwing a unit and a half on it, but I'm also going to throw a little same game parlay out there because I think his rebounds prop is also low at 5.5 boards. So if you combine his 21.5 points with 5.5 boards, you're looking at plus 250, and he's gotten 6 rebounds in every game of this series and 6 of the last 7 against the Celtics. So the boards are there for him, as well as Al Horford continues to just not manhandle, but definitely throw his weight into Capella and really limit him there. John Collins has had some decent rebounding games, but after that, man, this is the third best rebounder on the team right now is DeJounte Murray. So I continue to feel good about throwing a half a unit on his same game parlay to get 6 boards and 22 points.
Yeah, this is the rarest chance where Josh beat me to getting his first prop up, so I could not take DeJounte, who I tried to take before he was actually suspended for Game 5, because he's just I want to tell people I literally went onto my computer last night at about 1 a.m. and was like, nah, he's not getting DeJounte today. Yeah, just put the little placeholder there. He's cruised past 33 PRA in every game of this series. They are going to the reason his props are lower, I think, is because Trae has been so dynamic in the last 2 games. But that just means the Celtics are going to be focused more on Trae Young and letting DeJounte get that higher usage rate. I have no problem tacking on 6 rebounds either. He's averaging 7.3 in the series. I think John Collins is going to continue to get benched, which we'll talk about with Josh's second pick here. And that makes DeJounte sort of your defensive 3 on Jaylen Brown and much more of a rebounding presence. And he's fired up. I mean, that's why he got suspended, for being a definitely too fiery with the referee. But yeah, he's a competitive guy. He's going to be out there swinging, and like you said, playing 40 plus minutes in an elimination game here. So we both like Tatum here. whether you want over 3.5 threes or over 4.5 assists, it is both slight plus money here. And I'll make a case for both. In this last 4 playoff road games, Tatum's shooting 10.5 threes, hitting nearly 5 at 45%. I think I will lean on that a little bit more. He's shooting 40% before his 1 for 10 performance in game 5. You expect him to bounce back like that. You look at game 1 of the finals last year, he sucked from deep and then goes 6 for 9 from 3 in the next game, even in his struggle. And I talked about his game in an elimination spot in Milwaukee. He hit 7 threes, had 46 points on the road. Also got in there with 4 assists. He has at least 4 assists in 9 of the last 11 road playoff games. So that is there. The Celtics are getting 29 assists in their last 3 in the series. And Tatum averages 30 points and 5.5 assists his last 6 regular season against Atlanta, which is, the second worst defense in terms of allowing assists. So both seems like solid bets. I'll let Josh be the tiebreaker and tell the people which one to go for here.
Yeah, probably the threes. It scares me because sometimes his decision making around the 3-point line isn't awesome. And he pulls shots that he should be taking to the rack. It was sort of emblematic of how they didn't step on the throat of Atlanta in that last game. And I would say part of the reason was potentially a few too many threes, to be honest. So, that scares me that he's like that, but it's 4 threes in a like you said, the playoff roadies where they rely on him. It's why I like him to score 30 and for them to win this game. And if he's going to score 30, he doesn't necessarily have to get 4 3-pointers, but the fact that he's making close to 5 and shooting about 11 in those playoff roadies is a really nice sign for you to feel good about that as well. And I just think he'll be looking to do that. He'll have the ball in his hands, but Jaylen Brown's going to have it as well. And if they do end up getting Malcolm Brogdon in there at the end of games to keep the offense stable and just the sort of mental aptitude of the Celtics capable and stable, then I think there's more assists coming for Malcolm Brogdon in that sense as someone who will probably have the ball in his hands to start the possession. So the threes, and you get a little bit better juice on it. I'm not scared of 4 threes for Tatum if I'm taking 30 points on him. So this last pick, Nate, I don't love it either, but I'm going to bank on him, man. I'm only going to throw half a unit on it. I am. I don't know why this says 1.5 units on our notes. I'm throwing half a unit on John Collins to get more than 15 boards and points combined. Is that a great pick if you look at his stats as of late? No, it's not. He has not played that well in this series. He had a great game last game because of the absence of DeJounte Murray. He has gotten over this prop in one other game, in that first one, before having just awful games 2 through 4. And I'm looking at games 2 through 4 as more of an anomaly than the norm for John Collins here. I think part of the reason, obviously, in game 5 that he was so effective was Capella is getting eyed and DeJounte Murray is not in the game, right? And so he's playing off a little bit more of that wing, get down into the corner, and if Trey drives into the lane, now he's looking out on the wing or the corner for someone like a Sadiq Bey or a John Collins. That's where those guys are standing. But I do think that that is going to continue to be somewhat of the case, as I do actually like Trey to continue to get points. I like points in this game, and I do like Trey to continue to get points. Like, I don't know why you would start to bank on him, just slowing down entirely at this point. He shot the ball 33 times in the last game, not including free throws, and with like a 40%, nearly 40% usage rate. So, I think he'll continue to be doing that, but he'll probably have a little bit more focus on him, and he will need to dish off to guys like John Collins. I don't think he can go 6 for 27 like he did in games 2 through 4. I think that was the anomaly. He's still getting 11 field goal attempts a game. So his points are at 10.5. If you're saying he's going to shoot the ball 11 times, do you think he's going to get, he's going to score 10 points off of that? Like, I do. I really do. And the rebounds have been something that he did every game except for game 5, where he was focused on scoring a lot more. Rebounds were actually a little bit harder to come by in general, as both teams were making a decent amount of their shots in that game. And so, I think the rebound's still at 5.5, something he's done in 3 out of the 4 out of the 5 games as well. The only time failing to do so was in that last game when he had 22 points. So that's why I was like, let me just combine the points and rebounds. He's going to do one of them well enough to get us over 16 combined. And like I said, in the games that he shot better than like 35%, as opposed to shooting around 30 25 to 30% like he did in games 2 through 4, like then all he has to do is like make 4 shots and we're getting over our points prop here. And the boards, I think, will be something at this pace that they've been playing at 102.5 pace in the last game. The series is basically at that same pace as well. So there's going to be opportunities here, but go ahead and pinch your nose and tell me why this is such a stinky pick.
It's fine. I mean, it's minus 125 to go over this, though. Like, I would much rather go in a different direction based on instead of taking a guy who could easily just get yanked. Like, he's just a bad matchup defensively against the Celtics. I think DeAndre Hunter at the 4 makes a lot more sense for the Hawks. And I mean, you've made a living off going Clint Capella under because he gets yanked. He only plays half the game because they could just go with Okongwu. I mean, it's just, I think he could continue to shoot 25% because he's not a good shooter and he's playing in a weird position for to be the wing kick out. Like, he's not a good corner 3 shooter. That the Hawks have been talking about trading him for 2 years to get a better guy in that role alongside Trey, and they haven't done it. And so now you're just stuck with John Collins taking a lot of shots that are probably not his bread and butter. So, I mean, there's definitely a world where he continues to go under because he went way under the first 4 games of this series. It was just like he is an invisible force out there. So I like your gumption here saying something's got to change, and it is at home. But at minus 125, I was just stay away.
Yeah, no, it's fine. He hasn't gotten it in the first 4 games. No, he got in the first game. That was the only one where he did get the 12 points, which is what I was looking at and hoping that obviously those 2 good games were on the road, but the minutes went down to 21 and 25 in games 3 and 4 because of how poorly he was shooting. I mean, he went 1 for 9 in that game 4. So it's definitely not my favorite pick. I'm going to sprinkle half a unit on it now because I talked about it and because you're against it. So I am going to put a little bit on it, but I would agree. We've been ignoring DeAndre Hunter kind of all season. And in this series, he's been a lot better and he's at 14.5 points, 5 more than John Collins or so. So do what you will with that. One of those 2 guys. Obviously, we have 3 picks that we are much more fond of in this one. And there's, it's going to become a little bit sparse when you have 1 game to choose between. And I didn't want to just start repeating you as well. So John Collins doesn't have the most of my confidence here, but he has some of it. And I'm going to look at the numbers and say that the numbers game here assumes that he's got to hit like 4 of those 11 shots he's hitting for still a pretty bad percentage. So that is all the time we have for you in the Play of Props video, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We also got best bets from this game for you guys, so you can check that out. And until we see you next, happy betting.